In the car wash environment, you're basically taking dirt off a car and cleaning it. That dirt goes somewhere. It usually contaminates bearings. It gets just indwelled in the chain. And if any of you guys have ever been in the pit to clean it out after a busy week, month, it's just nasty. And that actually acts as an abrasive to the chain itself. So, keeping your chain clean, keeping lubrication done, making sure you have the right bearings and the right seals in. A bearing can last a month, if you have the wrong bearing and the wrong seal. You know, Relubrication is something that's critical for bearings in the application to eliminate all the contaminations on intrusion, and then to also get rid of water that may get inside the bearings.
What are some of the other reasons that maybe a bearing might fail on an operator?
Why do bearings fail? 70% of the time, bearing fail because of lubrication.
Mm.
And it's not just under lubrication where they don't lubricate it enough. It could be over lubrication where they lubricate it too much. So there's a critical timeline. And, Ryan will talk about some of our engineering support staff that will come in and give you the exact amount you need to lubricate that bearing at given points and times to help you extend and get the maximum life out of bearings.
So, Rob, as long as you're taking care of the component, it feels like that can be an avoidable problem. I feel like there's a level of predictability when it comes to kind of the maintenance of some of these bearings. But have you seen any kind of unexpected failures that kind of caught you by surprise by some of your customers?
Oh yeah. And even in my own wash, I've had some unexpected failures of bearings.
Yeah.
We had a bearing seize on a tire brush, and it was on the passenger side. So the passenger side moves in and out. And if it can't move in and out, if it's stuck in the in position, you're going to derail cars, and that just shuts down your wash. Side brushes are another one where I had a bearing fail in a side brush, and it caused the brush to lock up. So we had to, at that time, we didn't have the automated systems that they do now. We had to wire it so that it didn't touch the cars
Oh my
because,
goodness.
yeah, it was a big problem. Those are some key applications. A trash pump that pumps all the pit water out and circulates it. We had that fail on a busy day. So virtually, instead of being able to use the reclaim water, when we talk about expenses,
Right.
a wash uses 75% reclaim water.
Right.
We weren't able to use any of that reclaim water. So we had to use fresh water, which just, the cost of water is very, very expensive. So that day, a lot of the profit, as we said, went down the drain.
Yeah. Ryan, no one would ever disagree that one of the harshest working environments is a car wash, right? Naturally, you've got water, you've got chemicals, you've got pressure, you've got temperature swings, you've got angry customers or happy customers. Everyone just wants to get through in less than 3 minutes. So tell me a little bit about, that environment, right? And like, how does that really impact the life of some of these more high performing components like bearings?
Yeah, that's a really good question, right? You see that in that wet, damp environment, a lot of times they never dries out, right? So you always have that wetness, and that'll break down the bearings. It'll break down the rubber components or the seals of those bearings if they're not properly applied to that application, right? So it's very important that you have the right bearing product in the application to get the maximum life out of it. Certainly, as you mentioned, you have the pressure. If the pressure can blow out the grease out of a bearing, the temperature swings, right? I mean, especially in the northern part of the country, you can have a warm day, a cold day. They can bring in ice and snow one day and warm weather the next. All of that affects the overall life of the bearings in the application. And that's why it's key to have a partner who will really help you find the right bearing for the right application.
Ryan, I know that Rob kind of outlined the impact of some of those failures, right? Being both in time and cost, right? You're losing opportunity to bring customers through, and you're losing that additional revenue. That's the money being left on the table. So, are there any other kind of failures that you can think of, or any kind of failure modes that you see across the different wash types that are pretty commonplace?
Rob mentioned it as well. You can get a bearing to seize, right? And what
Yeah.
causes that bearing to seize? They get fluid or water past the seal. It begins to break down those internal components. causes rust. The more of that builds up inside that bearing, it will eventually seize it up. Another area that we see some failures too, right, is from breaking of the housings, right? The bearings that we're talking about, they all fit into a housing, whether it be a 4-bolt flange, a 2-bolt, a pillow block, or maybe a tap base. There's a lot of stress and different sized vehicles and everything that come through those car wash or those tunnel systems. And if you don't have a robust heavy duty housing in that application, you can actually break that housing and cause downtime within the wash as well.
Ryan, what are some of the steps that an operator can take? We're spending a lot of time on that preventative maintenance, right? Lubrication, just general monitoring, making sure that you've got the right team and maintenance team on site in place to be able to react quickly to these kind of changes. But are there any like predictive maintenance changes that an operator can make to really get in front of some of these obstacles?
Yeah, certainly. Anytime a bearing starts to make a noise, right? Whether it gets warm, always an indication that there's something going on in there.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe the grease is coming out of the bearing, right? That'd be another indication that maybe the seal has fallen out or the seal has broken down and allowed that lubrication. So it's really with your senses, right? Your ears, your eyes, if it has an odor or a smell to it as well. What we like to do, and when we recommend products, we understand, everybody wants a predictive maintenance. We just try to push that cycle out as far as we can, right? So, if you have an application and it's going for 4 months today, we really want to put in a product that will last 8 months or beyond. And so we just push that maintenance schedule out. And that's really how we want to help the operators.